he realises what the key to exploration for him is going to be, and it's all going to be to do with energy. With these dogs, he could now pass quickly through the landscape. He could get away with so much more. He could choose his time, choose his moment, and pass through the landscape that much more effectively.
But mastering the dogs and sled was far from easy. In temperatures of -60, Amundsen's experiment soon came to grief.
The first hour, when we were all fresh, things went very well. But then the difficulties began. It seems as though we were driving the sledge through the sand of the desert. Every little snowdrift meant we had to stop. The poor dogs suffered greatly.
For 3 days, Amundsen pressed on, locked in a private battle with the terrain. Only when the dogs could go no further did he finally admit defeat, dumping half his supplies in the snow and turning for home.
I now saw there was little to be gained by going on in this way and decided to turn back. The dogs soon saw which way we were going, and we men were all glad we had given up our hopeless task. With the sledge lighter, we did the journey that had taken us 2.5 days in just 4 hours.
The Inuit elders, amused at Amundsen's disastrous journey, let slip the secret of the Inuits' ability to travel overland at any temperature. They coated the runners of their sleds with frozen moss, then with water warmed in the mouth, applied fine new layers of ice with a bearskin mitt. It was a surface that could run across any snow in the world. As Amundsen's second winter in the Arctic approached, it was clear that his decision to stay was beginning to change the life of the Inuit around him. More than 60 families now traveled to join the camp beside the Joa. It was more than the land had ever supported before.
There was but little doubt that our presence gave a special attraction to this spot. Many of them came to beg for food, though they have more than enough for the winter.
Amundsen also learned that some of the Inuit men had bartered their wives. Though his men suspected Amundsen of having affairs of his own, he banned the relationships. Gustav Wiik wrote in his journal,
The boss's mood is as sharp as a razor these days. He walks about sulking like a little child and meddles in things he preferably should stay away from. And from now on we can expect the most peculiar plans and heaven knows what else.
Amundsen discovered that there was congenital syphilis amongst some of the Inuit, which showed, of course, that they must have been in contact with Europeans. And there were other tensions. He believed that a polar expedition should be absolutely sexless. The whole concept of women ought to be banished.
Amundsen was an increasingly isolated figure. Though he was more focused on success than his hero Franklin had ever been, he never inspired the same easy affection and loyalty among his men.
In the beginning, he needs people. He needs support. But later on, he's more and more selfish. He don't need them anymore. So he becomes more and more lonely.
The shoal is running across here.
How far?
5 miles to the east and the west, and the currents are running strong.
Okay, so how can we get through?
During the spring of their second year,
Center.
Amundsen sent a scouting party to investigate the route ahead. They reported a dangerous channel of shoals and drifting ice to the south of the island. They were just 90 miles from a charted waterway that led to the open sea. But if this channel defeated them, the dream of the Northwest Passage was over. On August the 13th, 1905, Amundsen set sail from Joa Haven down the strait that at one point narrowed to just 9 miles.
We call it Simpson Strait now, and it's a very, very narrow channel, and it's very, very shallow. And there's rocks sticking up all over the place. It's an area that modern ships just totally avoid. For Amundsen to navigate through this channel, it was going one way or another, around rocks, around shallow areas, with very, very little room to maneuver. This is dangerous. This is dangerous work.
Hold course!
The thought that here, in these troublesome waters, we risked spoiling everything was anything but pleasant. I couldn't get rid of the thought of returning home having failed. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat.
Boss! Boss! Vessel in sight! Vessel in sight!
On the morning of the 26th of August, 1905, Amundsen had finally gone below to sleep when the crew sighted a vessel ahead. It was a whaler, and she was flying the Stars and Stripes. On her hull were painted the words San Francisco. Her captain sent over a greeting. "You must be Captain Amundsen. Congratulations."
The Northwest Passage was done. My boyhood dream was accomplished. A strange feeling welled up in my throat. I was somewhat overstrained and worn. It was a weakness in me, but I felt tears in my eyes. Vessel in sight. Vessel in sight.
Roald Amundsen, as a young boy, is reading about Franklin, and he is saying to himself, I'm going to do this where he failed, where his men died, and I'm going to make it.
For 400 years, the search for a Northwest Passage had destroyed ships and claimed the lives of hundreds of men. Amundsen at last had found the fabled route across the Arctic, but it lasted only until the wind changed and the maze shifted again. As long as ice filled the channels of the Arctic, the passage they were chasing was a phantom.